In a remote cave in Siberia, scientists made a discovery that would rewrite human history. A single finger bone, no larger than a child's pinky, revealed the existence of an entirely unknown human species, the Denisovans, our mysterious cousins who walked the earth alongside us, yet left almost no trace behind. What makes this discovery so extraordinary is that we know the Denisovans existed not from skeletons or fossils, but from DNA extracted from fragments so small they could fit in your palm. Imagine trying to understand an entire civilization from just a handful of bone chips and teeth. That's the challenge scientists face with the Denisovans. The story begins in 2008 in the Denisova cave nestled in the Altai Mountains of Siberia. Russian archaeologists were sifting through sediment layers when they found a tiny finger bone. At first, they thought it might belong to a Neanderthal or an early modern human. But when geneticists analyzed the DNA, they were stunned. This was neither Neanderthal nor human, it was something else entirely. The DNA revealed a lineage that split from our common ancestor around 800,000 years ago. The Denisovans were as different from us as Neanderthals were, yet we had never seen them before. It was like discovering a new color in a painting you thought you knew by heart. But here's where it gets even stranger. Despite having only a few physical remains, a finger bone, a handful of teeth, and a piece of skull, scientists have been able to reconstruct an astonishing amount about these ghost people. Through ancient DNA analysis, we've learned that Denisovans interbred with our ancestors, and their genes still flow through the veins of millions of people alive today. If you're of Melanesian, Aboriginal Australian, or Southeast Asian descent, you likely carry Denisovan DNA. Some populations in Papua New Guinea have up to 5% Denisovan ancestry. That's more Denisovan DNA than most Europeans have Neanderthal DNA. These ancient humans didn't just vanish, they became part of us. The Denisovans were remarkably adaptable. Genetic evidence suggests they lived across a vast range, from the freezing mountains of Siberia to the tropical islands of Southeast Asia. They survived in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. One Denisovan gene variant, found in modern Tibetans, helps people survive at high altitudes where oxygen is scarce. This genetic gift from our extinct cousins allows millions to thrive on the roof of the world. In 2019, scientists made another breakthrough. A jawbone found by a monk in a cave on the Tibetan Plateau was identified as Denisovan. This mandible, at least 160,000 years old, proved that Denisovans had reached the highest plateau on Earth long before modern humans. The cave sits at 3,280 meters above sea level, a harsh environment where survival requires special adaptations. What did Denisovans look like? Without complete skeletons, scientists turned to an innovative approach. Using DNA methylation patterns, chemical markers on DNA that affect how genes are expressed, researchers created the first reconstruction of a Denisovan face. The result was haunting, a face that was distinctly human yet alien, with a wide skull, prominent brow ridge, and a jaw that jutted forward. The Denisovans had large teeth, much bigger than ours. One molar found in the cave was so massive that scientists initially thought it might belong to a cave bear. These robust features suggest a people adapted to a tough diet, perhaps crushing bones and processing difficult foods that would break our modern teeth. But the Denisovans weren't just surviving, they were thriving and innovating. Archaeological evidence from Denisova Cave shows they created sophisticated stone tools, bone artifacts, and even jewelry. They made bracelets from green polished stone, demonstrating aesthetic sense and cultural complexity. These weren't primitive brutes, they were thinking, feeling beings with their own culture and traditions. One of the most intriguing discoveries is that Denisovans, Neanderthals, and modern humans didn't just coexist, they interbred multiple times. In 2018, scientists analyzed a bone fragment from a teenage girl who lived about 90,000 years ago. Her DNA revealed something unprecedented. Her mother was a Neanderthal and her father was a Denisovan. This girl, nicknamed Denny, was a first-generation hybrid, proof that these different human species met, mingled, and had children together. The implications are staggering. For decades, we defined species by their ability to produce fertile offspring, yet here were three distinct human lineages, Denisovans, Neanderthals, and Homo sapiens, all interbreeding successfully. The boundaries between human species were far more fluid than we ever imagined. Where else did Denisovans live? Genetic traces suggest they ranged from Siberia to Southeast Asia, possibly even reaching Australia. But without more fossils, we're mapping their world through shadows and echoes. Every new genetic study reveals another surprise, another place where Denisovan DNA appears in unexpected populations. In the Philippines, scientists discovered another piece of the puzzle. Homo luzonus, a small-bodied human species found on the island of Luzon, lived around the same time as Denisovans. While we don't yet know if they're related, it raises tantalizing questions about how many different human species shared our world in the recent past. The Denisovans challenge everything we thought we knew about human evolution. We once imagined a simple family tree, with one species evolving into the next in a neat progression. Instead, we're discovering a tangled bush, with multiple human species coexisting, competing, and cooperating across hundreds of thousands of years. The mystery deepens when we consider what happened to the Denisovans. Why did they disappear while we survived? The answer isn't simple, and it might not be what you expect. Climate change played a role, but not in the way you might think. The Denisovans survived multiple ice ages and adapted to diverse environments. They weren't fragile creatures unable to cope with changing conditions. Something else happened, something more complex than just environmental pressure. One theory suggests that modern humans didn't necessarily outcompete the Denisovans, we absorbed them. Through interbreeding, the Denisovans didn't go extinct, they became part of the human gene pool. Their DNA lives on, giving us advantages like high-altitude adaptation and possibly enhanced immune responses. In a sense, the Denisovans never truly disappeared. But there's a darker possibility. Archaeological evidence from various sites suggests that when modern humans and other human species met, conflict sometimes occurred. We may have been responsible for their decline, either through direct violence or by outcompeting them for resources. The truth is, we don't know, and that uncertainty haunts researchers. What we do know is that the Denisovans left us gifts. Beyond the high-altitude gene, Denisovan DNA has been linked to immune system variations that help fight off certain viruses. In the frozen north, Denisovan genes may have helped populations adapt to extreme cold. These genetic contributions weren't random, they were selected for because they provided survival advantages. Recent studies have identified Denisovan DNA in unexpected places. Traces appear in populations across Asia, from China to Indonesia. Each discovery rewrites the map of where these mysterious humans traveled. They were far more widespread than the handful of fossils suggests, leaving genetic footprints across an entire continent. The Denisova cave itself continues to yield secrets. The cave was occupied for over 300,000 years by different human species. Layers of sediment contain DNA from Denisovans, Neanderthals, and modern humans, sometimes overlapping. This wasn't just a cave, it was a crossroads of human evolution, a place where different branches of humanity met and left their mark. Scientists have developed new techniques to extract DNA from cave sediments, even when no physical remains are present. These dirt DNA studies have revolutionized our understanding. We can now detect the presence of Denisovans in caves where no physical remains exist, simply by analyzing the soil they walked on thousands of years ago. One of the most fascinating aspects of Denisovan research is what it reveals about human consciousness and culture.
The jewelry and sophisticated tools found in Denisova Cave suggest these beings had symbolic thinking, aesthetic appreciation, and complex social structures. They weren't so different from us in the ways that matter most. But here's a question that keeps scientists awake at night. If we've only found a handful of Denisovan fossils, how many other human species existed that we haven't discovered yet? The Denisovans were found by accident through DNA analysis of a bone fragment. What if there are other ghost lineages hiding in our genes waiting to be discovered? Recent genetic studies hint at the possibility of other unknown human species. Some populations carry DNA that doesn't match any known human lineage, not Denisovan, not Neanderthal, not Homo sapiens. These mysterious genetic signatures suggest we interbred with other species we haven't even identified yet. The human family tree keeps growing more complex. The Denisovans also force us to reconsider what it means to be human. If 3 or more human species could interbreed and produce fertile offspring, were they really separate species, or were they variations of the same species adapted to different environments? The biological definition of species breaks down when we look at human evolution. Technology is accelerating Denisovan research at an unprecedented pace. Ancient DNA sequencing becomes more sophisticated every year. Scientists can now extract and analyze DNA from smaller and older samples than ever before. Each technological advance brings the possibility of new discoveries, new Denisovan sites, new insights into their lives. In China, researchers are investigating several caves that might contain Denisovan remains. A jawbone found in Baixia Karst Cave on the Tibetan Plateau has been confirmed as Denisovan. Protein analysis of the bone revealed its identity even though DNA couldn't be extracted. This opens new possibilities for identifying Denisovans in places where DNA preservation is poor. The story of the Denisovans is ultimately a story about us. It reveals that human evolution wasn't a straight line, but a complex web of interactions. We are not the sole survivors of a single lineage, but the product of multiple human species coming together. Every person alive today carries the legacy of these ancient encounters. What can the Denisovans teach us about our future? They remind us that adaptability is key to survival. They thrived in diverse environments, from frozen mountains to tropical islands. They innovated, created, and passed on their knowledge. Yet, despite their success, they vanished as a distinct people. Perhaps the lesson is that isolation leads to extinction, while connection leads to survival. The Denisovans who interbred with our ancestors live on through us. Those who remained isolated disappeared. In our modern world, facing unprecedented challenges, this ancient lesson feels remarkably relevant. The search for Denisovans continues. Every year brings new discoveries, new genetic studies, new insights into their lives. Somewhere in a cave in Asia, there might be a complete Denisovan skeleton waiting to be found. Imagine what we could learn from a full skull, a complete set of bones, preserved DNA from multiple individuals. Until then, we piece together the puzzle from fragments. Each tooth, each bone chip, each strand of ancient DNA adds another piece to the picture. The Denisovans remain mysterious, but they're no longer invisible. We know they existed, we know they mattered, and we know they're part of who we are. The next time you look in the mirror, remember, you might be looking at a face shaped partly by Denisovan genes. Those ancient humans who lived and loved and struggled in a world so different from ours contributed to making you who you are. Their story is our story, and it's far from over. The Denisovans are gone, but they're not forgotten. As long as their DNA flows through human veins, as long as scientists continue to search for their remains, as long as we tell their story, the Denisovans live on. They are the mystery humans we barely know, but they're also the ancestors we're only beginning to understand. And who knows, tomorrow someone might discover a new Denisovan site, a new fossil, a new piece of DNA that changes everything we thought we knew. The story of the Denisovans is still being written, and the most exciting chapters may be yet to come.